What? Of course, Brock is here. Wow, I didn't even think about it. Wow. That's great storytelling right there. I thought the Hurt Business was going to come out. Instead, they got Brock. What is this nigga's addiction with Lashley? Ah, they're gonna drag this all the way to Mania, aren't they? Then so are they not gonna do Lesnar and Gunther? Oh wow. They're the wow. So no Hurt Business, and they just have the show. What? Come on! You can't end the. What the frick? All right. Wow. And now we gotta do a review. That's a wild way to end Monday Night Raw. Wow. So Brock Lesnar returns, attacks Bobby Lashley, and once again, this is the second time that Lesnar has cost Bobby Lashley the United States Championship. Remember, it was right after SummerSlam, somewhere around there, last fall, where Lesnar attacked Lashley, and then that allowed Seth Rollins to take advantage and win the U.S. title, right? And then they had their match. I think they got Crown Jewel, and then we saw Lesnar barely beat Lashley there, and it looked like Lashley was turning heel, but they didn't go down that direction. They didn't turn Lashley heel. They've kept it as a babyface, which I'm fine with. And then they teased tonight. I thought tonight, because I've heard reports that Triple H wants to bring back the Hurt Business, right? I thought tonight would be the night where, the Hurt Business would arrive and maybe even help Lashley win back the U.S. title. But no, that's not what happened. Lesnar came out. Lesnar was not advertised for this show at all. Lesnar, wasn't even advertised for the Rumble. I'm not even, I wasn't even expecting Lesnar to be in the Rumble, but now I'm starting to think differently. And wow, Lesnar once again causes Lashley the U.S. title, and that's when Monday Night Raw goes off the air with his 30th anniversary show. And the thing about it is, they didn't even give you any time to breathe. They were up against it. So Lesnar comes out, he F5s Lashley, but then he F5s Austin Theory as well, and Theory lands right on top of Lashley, and he gets the win. So now Lashley's gonna be absolutely furious going into next week. I believe we know Lashley's supposed to be the Rumble, but it would make sense for Lesnar to be in the Rumble as well, just so they could continue that story. But now Lashley's gonna want to kill Lesnar, especially since Lashley's not been able to beat Lesnar, and then Lesnar just keeps getting in Lashley's way. So it's gonna be interesting to see where that story goes, but I did not expect that. I was 100% expecting, the Hurt Business, like MVP, maybe Benjamin and Cedric Alexander come out and they reform the Hurt Business. But I don't know, maybe this is what turns Lashley fully heel, even though it wouldn't really make sense too much, because even though both Lesnar and Lashley are baby faces, but Lesnar's the one that's cost Lashley multiple title matches now, right? So I don't know, but I was not expecting that to be how Raw went off the air. Let me check to make sure everything's right with the stream. You guys can hear me, right, and everything. I don't know, it just froze on my end, and after what happened last time, I don't want the stream to freeze or anything. I want to make sure we're all good. So I don't know. Let me check. Like my camera froze, but you guys can still hear me. So hold on. Let me just restart the camera. Give you guys 1 second. I think I know what happened. Got me freezing in the middle of a monologue. Come on. All right, that should fix it. All right, there we go. Let me know now. Everything should be back on. There we go. Perfect. All right, we back. Sorry about that. But anyway, yeah. So I don't know. I wasn't expecting that, but anyway, I was just live reacting to the end of Raw. But yo, what's going on, everybody? It is your boy Fitz on TV here, aka G-Lauren33. I'm back here tonight with another episode of the Legit Shoot podcast. Here tonight with your Monday Night Raw review and results for January 23rd, 2023, and that was good. You know, it feels good to be back. You know, first Monday Night Raw review of the year. I told you guys in advance that I would be streaming tonight. But it feels good to be here. And Monday Night Raw celebrating their 30th anniversary tonight. And that was a really, really good show. We also have to remember, yes, this was the 30th anniversary of Raw, but this was also the go-home show to the Royal Rumble. I know, Anthony, I see you in the chat, my good brother, former co-host to this podcast. I know Anthony's going to Houston this week for the Royal Rumble, and that should be a great time for him. But, yeah, you know, honestly, if you watch the show, you would kind of forget that the Royal Rumble was this Saturday, right? But it was still a good show. They still pushed. They still built towards all the angles for this Saturday show. And even for a second, I forgot that the Royal Rumble was this Saturday. But I am very, very much excited for the Rumble. It's my favorite pay-per-view of the year, and I think this year is one of the more hyped Royal Rumbles in recent memory. But before that, it is Raw's 30th anniversary, right? Oh, it's in San Antonio. My bad. You know, Texas is all the same, right? But before we get into the podcast, before we get into the review of the show, like I said, Monday Night Raw was really good tonight, especially that first hour with the trial of Sami Zayn and the return of The Undertaker, right? This show wasn't perfect, of course. We'll get into that, but all in all, this was a really enjoyable show. But before we get into that, 30 years of Monday Night Raw. The years go by so fast, like crazy. You know, it seems like every single year there's a new anniversary. No matter if it's like Raw 1000 or Raw 25, right? Or you know, Raw 15, or I forget. There's like something new every year. But the fact that Raw has been on for 30 years, that's wild. That's, you know, longer than my life, right? You know, close to 25 years. But so 30 years of Raw, that's insane. And 30 years through ups and downs, right? For Monday Night Raw to be on TV every single week for 30 years straight with almost zero nights off, right? Almost zero Mondays off. That is super impressive. You got to give, you know, congratulations to everybody over in WWE, even to Vince, even though as much as I can't stand the guy, right, and how much I want him away from this company, still, you got to give, you know, huge congrats to all the people, all the superstars, the staff. You know, there's so many people that have led, you know, this company to have Raw for 30 years, right? And hopefully with Triple H in charge, he'll be able to continue for maybe even another 30 years, God willing. But still, and there's just so many, you know, memories, right? They were showing photos. One of my favorite things of the show tonight, they had like during when they came out from commercial breaks, they would show like photos of, you know, so many of the greatest moments in Raw history, and there's so many to count down. And then they would have like different themes from Raw, you know. And, you know, there's been a lot of themes, and there's been a lot of different logos and variations of Raw, but So, if you guys, drop your favorite moment of Raw in the comment section, your favorite moment, your favorite match, right? It's really hard for me to think, because there's so many that you can choose from, and there's really no wrong no wrong answer, right? There's really none. I know Anthony just put hot take. The Bloodline segment was the greatest segment in Raw history. What makes it a hot take is because it just happened, right? It just happened. I'm not gonna sit here and lie. That segment may go down as the best segment of the year by far, by far. Everything they did with that segment, and it was about 30 minutes long almost. It was great. Every single member of the Bloodline played a role in that segment, and it told a story, and it was done to perfection, right? And they announced shortly before Raw went on the air that the first hour would be commercial free. So at first I was like, I didn't even know that. So I was looking at my watch and I was like, we're 15, 20 minutes in, we haven't had a commercial yet. So I was like, but it was a fantastic segment, and we'll get into that in just a couple moments. But look, I'm not going to sit here and debate you, Anthony, saying that this was the greatest segment. I think it is, of course, recency bias, right? The segment just took place 3 hours ago, but it was definitely one of the best segments, involving the Bloodline ever. It's definitely, when we get to the end of the year, we're gonna look back, and it will definitely be up there as one of the best moments of the year by far. Everything about that segment was perfection. But to call it the best segment in Raw history, like, of course, it's subjective. Like, if you really do believe that, as time goes on, I'm not gonna argue. It's really subjective. You have 30 years of moments to choose from. There's so many moments, right? Stone Cold Steve Austin, the first time he stunned Vince McMahon, right after he won the WWF title. You could just Mankind winning the WWE title in Worcester, Massachusetts, my hometown, when he beat The Rock at the Civic Center, which is now known as the DCU Center, right? I had family members that were at that show. I don't even think I was born yet. You just go down. It's just so many moments come to your mind. Uh, you know, Cena versus CM Punk. Or the Cena versus The Rock feud when they first announced their dream WrestleMania match. That's a memorable moment, right? Brock Lesnar's return to WWE the night after Cena lost to The Rock at WrestleMania 28. Memorable moment. So many returns. Triple H returning. I think it was inside Madison Square Garden. Daniel Bryan and the Yes Movement. All the matches. Cena versus HBK 2007. They're in the WrestleMania rematch. I went almost an hour. You can just keep going and going and going. And like I said, it's subjective. It's super subjective. But just the fact that it's so hard to decide one moment, right, from Raw's history. This shows how great, being a WWE fan has been. Yes, there's been ups and downs, especially through the last 5 or 6 years of the Vince McMahon era. But all in all, it's 30 years of greatness for the most part, and of course, my hope is that this will continue for years and years on, God willing, right? As long as Triple H is in charge, I think there's 30 years of even more great moments ahead of us. If Vince retakes creative, that might be out the window. But for the most part, I'm hoping that Triple H stays in charge and we can continue this going forever and ever. Right. But like I said, so many great moments. Like I said, put some of your favorite Raw moments in the chat. I'll be looking for them. And let me know. Let me know what's your favorite Raw moments, your favorite matches. I will say this one negative about this show tonight, and one of my friends, Daisy, from our Discord server, tweeted about this. One negative of tonight's show is the woman did not get highlighted enough. Right? I understand, yes, you had a lot of legends. You had some really good segments, right? Of course, the Bloodline and what they did with Undertaker and Bray Wyatt that took up the first hour. Then you had the main event. But the woman, I don't think, got enough of a highlight on this show, right? And the women, they have just as important a role in the history of Monday Night Raw than just the men. That and like I said, you look at uh the Becky versus Bailey steel cage match. That was a match a lot of people were looking forward to, right? And there was no legends tonight from the women's. There was no Trish Stratus's. I was lead on the show. I believe I don't know. We're leading the Bella Twins on the show or anything. I'm not saying those are like my favorites of all time. You guys know I'm a Sasha Banks fan, but I'm just saying in general. I just don't think the woman got enough of a highlight on that show. Becky versus Bailey. A lot of people were looking forward to that steel cage match, and they advertised the shit out of that match. Instead, they gave you a bait and switch. They literally played. They teased you. They had the damage control attack Becky, and then the match never happened. And which I think it wasn't right on their end. I think that was a bad decision because I think a lot of people were actually looking forward to that match. Becky versus Bailey, we've been waiting for that big time match between them for years, and we didn't get it. Especially on a show like tonight, Raw's 30th anniversary. You thought, hey, they're going to get, maybe 20, 25 minutes, and they didn't get that. But it is, like, I feel like that wasn't the best decision. Of course, they're going to drag this out a little bit more going into the Rumble and after the Rumble, of course, but I feel like that was a little bit of a mistake to especially advertise that match for a show as big as this one and then not give it. You could tell the fans were disappointed. There was a lot of people on social media that were not happy about it. And I do think that was a little bit of a mistake on Triple H and his staff there. Also, he said there was not enough focus, I think, on the woman, really. That Charlotte Flair segment was trash, and we'll get to that. You know how I feel about Charlotte. That shit was garbage. All right. You gave us Bianca Belair and Sonya Deville as the main women's match on this show, a match that we've seen how many times? That was garbage, and I'm starting to sadly get over Bianca Belair as champion, which I hate saying that because I am such a big fan of, people of color being highlighted, and I do like Bianca, but I feel like her title reign has run its course, and she really hasn't done much in recent months. But I think Bianca versus Sonya, that being the decision, was not smart at all. But still, he said we'll trust me, we'll get into all that good stuff because I know definitely that should be hot take. I think I froze again, which this is starting to piss me off. It's starting to piss me off. If this keeps going, I might just do the review, just you guys listening to me through the mic. But still, let me fix the camera real quick. But I see, Anthony, you said Alexa Bliss is awful. You're right about that, but still, tell me, like, literally, I struggle to remember most of Bianca's title reign. If I'm being honest, there's parts of Bianca's title reigns where I don't remember shit. And that's not me hating on Bianca Belair or anything like that, but I just feel like her title reign just felt boring and stale. Outside of what she did with like Asuka and Becky at the beginning, right? Those first couple months, what has Bianca really done? The matches with Bailey should have won one of those matches. I'm still, of the mindset Bailey should have won the Raw Women's Championship. But like, we'll get to Bianca. I know I'm getting a little bit like out of order here, right? But that's just my opinion. But all right, yeah, my camera's frozen. Golly, sorry about this, guys. Not really what I wanted. I don't know why it's acting up more than usual today. I see why. The HDMI cord is getting old, so I'm probably gonna have to replace it. If I can just get through this review really with it, then I'll just sub it out later. But my HDMI cord here is getting old. I get a new one. Definitely will for the Rumble, but let me just fix that real quick, and then we can get back to the review. Sorry, guys, for the delay. Alexa, put your favorite Raw moments in the chat we'll be reacting to them as we go along here. And it's still not working. Fuck me. Oh, there we go. I'm not even gonna try to like freaking zoom in and fix it. Like, nah, we're just gonna go with the review as is. But yeah, let me see. You guys are very active in the chat. Moose says instead of having tag team titles, maybe it would have been cool for Damage Control the feud with Bianca, her facing all three once at a time. Yeah. One of my problems is that they fed Damage Control to Bianca. They wasted that. Those could have all. And I agree with you, Anthony. Those could have all been legit feuds, like Bianca versus EO, Bianca versus Dakota Kai, especially the history and the matches they had in NXT. Those could have all been legit feuds, for Bianca. Instead, they fed EO and Dakota Kai to Bianca right away. Then they did 2 pay-per-view matches with Bayley. I picked Bayley to win both of those matches, and she didn't. And then they did the War Games match, and they still didn't. That's part of the reason why Damage Control has kind of struggled here, because they beat people up and then they lose when it comes to the big match. Which it hasn't been the best of Vince's decision or Triple H's decisions, right? But let me pull up my notes from Bleacher Report here, and we'll talk more about Bianca here in a little bit. But I do agree with you there. But let's get into it. So, of course, the show opened up. They had a little bit of a little video package talking about the 30 years of Raw, and then the show opened. They were in Philly tonight. The crowd was, I will say, all right. I felt like the crowd could have been a little bit better. Philly is known for having really good crowds. I don't know. You guys can tell me, how did the crowd sound for you guys that were watching at home? Like, it wasn't a terrible crowd or anything. I just felt like there was some point of the show where they could have been a little bit louder, especially for a show this big. But it wasn't anything terrible. But, of course, Roman Reigns came out, did his full entrance, full bloodline in effect. And we had the trial of Sami Zayn. Let me see if the clip's on YouTube. I don't want to sit here and play the entire, if the clip's on YouTube, great. I don't want to sit here and play the entire segment. It's a very, very long segment. It's close to 30 minutes long. I would more just want something with the highlights, but let me see if I can find it here. The Bloodline dominated the first hour of Raw here. Let me see. Come on. So they have the segment on YouTube, but it's in different segments. So the Bloodline came out. Roman does the first intro, of course.
When it comes to citing
Philly,
sources,
acknowledge me, whatever. So then Paul Heyman takes control, and then basically Heyman right away goes right after Sami Zayn, right? Basically, they do this like almost an actual courtroom. The first thing, the crowd was chanting ECW, which was great. And then Paul Heyman, he's so good at spinning stuff. So basically, he kind of like thanked the crowd for chanting ECW because it means so much to him. But just like ECW, Sami Zayn is dead, which was hilarious. But that was a very, very funny way to start the segment. And right away, I'm thinking to myself, right, Sami Zayn got annihilated here by Paul Heyman. Like, annihilated. And I'm thinking, if I'm Sami Zayn, like, why do I want to be in the Bloodline? You have Sami, you have Paul Heyman, you have Roman Reigns, who's putting you on trial, right? Clearly, like, no matter what you do, there's always going to be that question of, does the Bloodline fully accept me? It doesn't matter what Sami does, the Bloodline would never fully accept him. No matter how good he is with Jimmy and now Jay, right? No matter if Solo likes him, right? There's always something. If Sami just slips up once, the Bloodline's all over him. And they put him on trial here. After how many months it took for Sami to convince them just to let him into the bloodline and to kind of earn their trust, right? You think they would be good? No. Now they're putting Sami Zayn here on trial. They have evidence from stuff all the way back in May, right? May and June, back in the summer of last year. They're showing footage of why, Sami Zayn shouldn't be in the bloodline, why he's a snake, right? Because the big thing is Sami Zayn's working with KO to destroy the bloodline from the inside. So if I'm Sami Zayn, these guys clearly don't trust you. Why are you still wasting your time? Do you need to feel accepted? Do you need to be part of a group to feel good about yourself? Like, what are you doing? So I'm going to play, so there's 2 clips, 3-minute clips. So the first one is Paul Heyman presents the prosecution side of the trial.
Samoans speak in this tribal court. That is an Imbula Palapala.
Heyman talking Samoan is
He's
hilarious.
a Judas. He's the betrayer of the island of irrelevancy. He is a conspiracy. He has been in a conspiracy with Kevin Owens since day number 1. The prosecution hereby presents our evidence.
Everything you guys said last week.
This is back from August. So this is back when Drew McIntyre was feuding with Roman and he attacked the Usos backstage, right? And then you see Sami Zayn running away like a little mouse.
Running away like the gutless coward that he is.
Exhibit B. So this is back from late August, right?
And here's Sami Zayn.
The match against KO. They expect Sami Zayn to get a chair and take KO out, but he doesn't.
That's a conspiracy.
It actually leads to KO stunning Jey Uso. It's kind of funny how fast time goes by. Feels like that match happened just like 2 months ago.
Here's the best. After the War Games.
So this was now War Games. I remember because I was at this show live. This was after the show went off the air.
Now he's on top of the cage for
So Zayn, you see.
Wait for it. What is this? What are we, the NWO?
Zayn is celebrating on top of the cage while the rest of the bloodline's looking up at him. So now we go back to December. This was right before Cena and KO faced them in a tag team match.
I got news for you. We
even missed it on television. Did you see what Sami just did? Boom!
So Zayn was giving a passionate promo and he accidentally shoulder shoves in the Roman, which didn't seem to bother him, right?
That was assault.
And then Paul Heyman, accuses Sami Zayn of trying to assault Roman, when he wasn't looking, which is hilarious.
You have nothing else. You're guilty of assault on the tribal chief. My tribal chief. Ladies and gentlemen of the jury, I beg of you, and I'm not a begging man, to find this rat guilty as charged.
So I'll pull up the second clip, right? And basically Roman asks Zayn, defend yourself. Right? And Zayn, I actually like this from Zayn. Instead of giving some 10-minute monologue trying to explain why, he's innocent, he's like, I shouldn't have to do this. This is ridiculous. He says, I have no defense, which pissed Roman off, right? Zayn's like, after everything I've done to try to prove my loyalty to you, now I'm being put on trial. Why, I don't have the defense. I could easily come up with an argument, but it's a waste of time. I shouldn't even be in this position. And this pisses Roman off. Roman's like, seriously, you're going to sit here and disrespect me like this? You're not going to try to defend yourself? You think this is some kind of game? And it's looked just for a second that he was going to get kicked out of the bloodline. Let me see. Is my camera... Yeah, my camera's still working great. But it looked like he was actually going to get kicked out of the bloodline, right? And it did not look good. It did not look good for Sami. He even sent Solo over. Roman says Solo, and then Solo's about to take Sami Zayn out, which is kind of sad because remember originally Solo he fucked with Sami Zayn, right? Before what Jay did, right? Jimmy was always cool with Sami, but before Jay and the other members of the bloodline came around, Solo fucked with Sami Zayn. Remember, there was moments where Solo would tell the Usos like, "Stay back. I'm fine going out to the ring with just Solo." And now Solo, he didn't even think about it. He was about to take out Sami Zayn like he was nothing, which was kind of sad. And then right before that, when this segment turned its head and it got really good is when Jay stood up to defend Sami Zayn. Sami Zayn had no defense for himself. He was done. But then Jey Uso, the member of the bloodline that you would least expect to defend Sami Zayn, the one that had the most history with Sami Zayn, the one that's had the most problems with Sami Zayn, the one that was, almost last to come around to defend and finally accept Sami Zayn to the bloodline as he stood up and defended Sami Zayn. This is when I was in the Discord server and we were like, oh my gosh, this is great. This was great. And when it comes to these storylines and these segments, Paul Heyman definitely has a big role in it because he's so good when it comes to these things. And, I don't know who else, if it's Triple H or somebody else from creative, but these segments always are so good at progressing the story. So good. No matter if it's just Sami Zayn and Roman Reigns in the locker room area, Roman getting mad at Sami Zayn and then, forgiving Zayn later on or apologizing to him. This segment was fantastic, right? Sami Zayn's about to be taken out of the bloodline, and out of all people, it wasn't even Jimmy, it was Jay. Jay stands up and defends Sami Zayn in front of Roman. I wouldn't be surprised if it was Jimmy. Jimmy's been, the one that's liked Sami since day one, right? But no, it was Jay. And I got the clip right here. We'll play it for you guys.
Opportunity after I give you opportunity after opportunity. I let you in my family, and this is what you do. This is the respect you show me. And no, Solo!
I love And Solo was about to take Sami Zayn out like it was nothing. I love this. And Jimmy's just like, I love it.
Tribal Chief, OG, no disrespect. All right? I put together my own footage last night. Roll the tape.
Roll the tape. He's like, just roll it.
No disrespect.
And then they show the moments where Sami Zayn has come up pretty big for the bloodline, and they were showing matches from way earlier this summer, right? And of course, the biggest moment was Survivor Series, War Games, and that was the moment where Jay finally came around and accepted Sami Zayn into the bloodline. And this got so good because when they came back, you could see Sami Zayn almost tearing up, right? Tearing up that Jey Uso of all people was defending him in front of Roman Reigns, standing up for him and vouching for him to stay in the bloodline. Honestly, I really think we need to have a conversation and start talking about the bloodline being maybe the greatest faction in WWE history. These characters, man, Roman Reigns, the head of the table, Heyman, yes, you can argue that Heyman's the munch in a way, right? He does, kind of sits there and, sucks Roman off in a way, but he's also really smart. A really smart counsel to have. You have of course, the Usos, right? Roman's cousins, but they have two different personalities. Jimmy's the more chill, relaxed one who likes to have more of a good time. And then Jay is the more, aggressive one. He has the temper, a little more emotional, right? And Jay's usually causes way more problems than Jimmy. Jimmy's a little more, because Jimmy's more easygoing, right? You tell Jimmy something, he's going to do it. Jay, sometimes he'll argue back with you, right? Solo's the quiet guy, but he's the enforcer. He's the guy you don't want to mess with outside of Roman, right? He takes care of a lot of the dirty work. And he does, he doesn't emotion. He's very stoic. He's like Vegeta, from DBZ. And all these characters, of course, you have Sami Zayn, who, like Paul Heyman, is an outsider, but he's the one that doesn't fit. At least Paul Heyman kind of makes sense, right? As the counsel, in a way. He's there to give Roman advice. Sami Zayn's the guy that doesn't fit in all of this. But to have Jey Uso there defending Sami Zayn to Roman, it's incredible. It's amazing. It really, really is. And these segments, when we talk about them years and years down the line, right? This is why Moose said earlier in the chat that this was the greatest segment in Raw history. And we'll see how this segment does as years go on. But this is fantastic. You guys, the story and these characters, right? Everything makes so much sense and it's so good. So when you look back at some of the greatest factions of all time, right? The Bloodline is up there. The Bloodline literally is up there because these characters, are so good when they're all together.
Chief and the head of the table, I find you, Sami Zayn, not guilty.
And you see, Zayn's about to cry. Solo just was just looking at him. Jimmy and Jay are happy. Well, and Roman says for now.
I want you to look at Jay and I want you to thank him because he bought you more time. And in the meantime, this is how it's gonna go. Finish out tonight. Make the Bloodline proud. And then I don't want to see you again until Saturday at the Royal Rumble. Do you understand me? I don't want to see you. I don't want to hear from you. I don't want to hear that you're at a show. Nothing. Go home. And then I will see you at the Royal Rumble. And that is where you're going to deliver your final test. And then we're going to see if Sami Zayn really is.
Oh, the first day that we signed up for Monday.com, our department.
What a turn of events to kick off Monday Night Raw. If, in fact, Sami Zayn is not as Jey Uso.
And then you see Jimmy and Jay, right? So Solo, Roman, and Paul Heyman, they leave the ring. But you see Jimmy and Jay, right? Jay takes off his necklace, right? And hugs Sami Zayn, puts it on him. Just like, I got you. And Jimmy, daps him up. And then, of course, that would lead into the next match, which would be, that match would tell a story just as good as this segment. The way this all flowed was fantastic. Fantastic. So, right, Roman says that he doesn't want Sami Zayn to show up until the Royal Rumble. Of course, KO will be going up against Roman Reigns. KO and Sami Zayn, they are friends, right? As much as they try to act like they're no longer friends, we all know they are. And Roman says that will be your final test, which clearly tells you that Roman has some type of plan that's involved Sami Zayn to help him retain the Universal Championship at the Rumble. That's clearly where this is going. So, and we've talked about it now. We've talked about it on the podcast. All of us have talked about it, right? What's going to happen at the Rumble, right? Will this be where Sami Zayn is finally kicked out of the Bloodline? Or will this be where Sami Zayn turns on the Bloodline? What's going to happen? So they're teasing you. They're giving you a reason to keep with the story. This has been the best story in all of WWE for the better part of a year now, right? For over half a year, this has been the best story in WWE with the twists and turns. And, you know, we're reaching a pivotal moment here with the Royal Rumble. What will happen, right? Will Sami Zayn finally prove himself? Even though technically War Games was when he proved himself, right? But still, it's not enough in the eyes of Roman. So we'll have to see at the Royal Rumble, will Sami Zayn prove himself finally, his loyalty truly to the bloodline, or will he fail and will he be kicked out of the bloodline? You know, and that's the one we've been waiting for. We're waiting for the, you know, KO and Sami versus the Usos. It's one of the matches we're expecting at Mania. And will, you know, this be the big turning point? We'll just have to wait and see. But fantastic segment. There's not enough that I can say about it. And this would lead right into the first match of the night. First match, we had what was it called? Jimmy and Jey Uso defending the Raw Tag Team titles against Judgment Day, Dominic Mysterio, and long hair. I forget. Why am I forgetting his name? The long hair guy. Damian Priest. I don't know why it took me why I forgot his name. And remember, now WWE is now treating the tag team titles as separate. So yes, the Usos hold both sets of tag team titles, but WWE is now considering them as separate titles. So the Raw tag team titles were on the line here, not both set of titles. But you know, now that both set of tag titles are separate, right? It does add a whole new element because now you don't know when the Usos will lose one of those titles. You know, originally we thought they would probably hold both set of titles till WrestleMania, but now that both set of titles are separate, right? It adds a whole nother layer of, you know, unpredictability. You don't know when the Usos could lose one of those titles since they defend those titles so much. Honestly, I wish there was a list. If someone could come up with a list of all the times the Usos have defended those tag titles over this long historic reign. It's like literally they've defended those titles like every other week, you know, and they've had those titles for what, over a year and a half. So, you know, who knows how many defenses they've had, but they continue to defend those almost every week, and they continue to put out banger after banger after banger. But this match, they did tease heavily that the Usos would lose it. Really, and there was definitely a couple moments where I did think that they would lose these titles, especially with what happened about midway through. So I'll skip over it. So we got halfway through the show, or halfway through the match, right? So basically, you see Jimmy had what looked like an ankle injury. At first, I was like, "Oh, is this real? Is this, you know, fake? Like, what's going on here?" This was, you know, scripted. So basically, they threw up the X, right? So people had to come out to help Jimmy to the back, and then Adam Pearce came out and said if he can't continue, they would have to forfeit the match and the titles, which usually is not what they do. That's usually not what they do. You know, usually they just would reschedule the match for another date. Usually they don't force the champions, especially somebody like the Usos who have held those titles for a year and a half, right? The fact that they were considering having them forfeit the titles was kind of wild, right? But, you know, clearly Jimmy could not continue. But then Sami took the mic and suggested that he take Jimmy's place, and Pierce allowed it since he did the same thing for the Judgment Day in the Tag Team Turmoil match. Remember, in the Tag Team Turmoil match, Finn got injured halfway through, and then Dominic came in and, took over for the rest. So it was only fair. So then it was funny. They had a camera on Roman, who was watching backstage with Heyman and Solo, and Roman did not have much of a reaction, right? You know, Roman's thoughts were still the same. He just didn't want anything to do with Sami here. But of course, if, you know, they had lost the match and Sami had been the reason why they lost the match, that would have just added more fuel to the fire, and you know that would have pissed Roman off. So they ran to the ring, and then, you know, the match went on. There was a bunch of near falls. You know, Damian hit Zayn with a choke slam for a near fall, and it was like 2 3/4 that it took Sami to kick out of some of those falls. And for a sec, there was a couple moments there when you actually thought that, oh gosh, they're gonna lose the Raw Tag Team titles, right? And then what would be even more crazy is, of course, this is Sami Zayn. This is not Jimmy Uso. So Jey Uso, who he just defended, Sami Zayn to Roman Reigns, right? He's gonna lose the tag team titles, not even with his brother. He's gonna lose the title with Sami Zayn as his partner. But still, that's not what happened. After a couple near falls, Rhea Ripley, of course, got involved. Still, Sami and Jey together hit the 1D on Dominic, and they were able to get the win. The crowd went absolutely wild. Zayn held up the SmackDown Tag Team titles, but then he gave them back to Jey. He was like, "These are not my titles. I was just doing what I would do for my family," which was really good. The story was fantastic here. Reigns said, "Okay, Zayn did good here. Still, I don't care. I don't want to see him till Saturday. Get him out of here." And that was that. This was fantastic. Like, there's not enough good things that I can say about this story, right? And then now we just have to wait till Sunday or Saturday. We just gotta wait till Saturday to see what happens. Will Sami Zayn cost Roman Reigns the Universal title? Probably not. But still, will Sami Zayn turn on the Bloodline? Will the Bloodline turn on him? Will Roman Reigns turn on Sami Zayn? What is going to happen? My prediction is I think Zayn will pass the test, and Zayn will remain in the Bloodline a little bit longer. Eventually, I think Elimination Chamber will probably be where Zayn finally is executed from the Bloodline, and then that's when they will build KO and Sami versus the Usos for Mania. But we'll see. We just got to be patient. We just got to wait and see. But this is, like I said, this is the best storyline probably in pro wrestling right now, and I cannot wait to continue to see where this goes. It's just fantastic. It's just fantastic. Every single week, they just add more and more layers to it, and it just gets better and better and better. And what they did tonight, that was great, right? And this took most of the first hour of Raw, but not the entire first hour. So we went to commercial. Right, they did a little poker segment with Baron Corbin and JBL, which they've been doing a lot. Actually, they've been doing this, a good amount these last couple weeks with these big poker games backstage, where they had some legends there. Right, you had Gargano and Dexter Lumis. You had American Alpha and a couple other superstars. Everyone was drinking, playing poker, whatever, and that would be something throughout the night. They had the Godfather and some other legends. But then they had LA Knight come out, and you guys know LA Knight's quickly becoming one of my favorites on the main roster. I love LA Knight. I will probably say this every single podcast this year. I want LA Knight to get pushed heavy this year. This guy is a charisma machine. Every time he's on the mic, you gotta listen. Let me talk to you, and that's just a fact of life. Oh my God, I love hearing LA Knight on the microphone. So LA Knight came out, and basically he was talking about Bray Wyatt and roasting him a little bit, but he was also roasting some of the legends, and he dared one of the legends to come out and face him. Right, and so he could give a preview of what he was going to do to Bray Wyatt this Saturday at the Royal Rumble in the pitch black mask. So let me play that clip for you guys.
That's about what I thought. I didn't think anybody'd show up because they ain't got enough to fit.
And then The Undertaker came out. The Undertaker was advertised for this show, right? But he was more advertised as the American Badass Taker. It wasn't Phenom Taker. It was the American Badass Taker. So at first they teased that Undertaker was going to come out as the Phenom until And then no, they play his American Badass theme. I'm American Badass. What do you? It did take a little bit of time for him to come out. They did tease it, but then yeah, he comes out on the motorcycle. And the thing about it is, when was the last time I think we haven't seen American Badass Taker on Raw, like in person on Raw in forever, right? Maybe like Attitude Era. Remember, you know, yes, we did see American Badass Taker versus AJ Styles, but that was during COVID. There was no crowd, you know. So this was the first time we've seen American Badass like in you know, sold out arena in forever. Which was really, really cool to see. I wish they had played Undertaker's other American Badass theme. You know, rolling, 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 rolling. That's my favorite American Badass theme. I love that theme. But it was still really cool to see him. But another thing. Not gonna lie, Taker's old, dude. I'm not gonna sit here and lie. Undertaker's old, guys. He was struggling a little bit with his motorcycle. Like he was struggling. It took him a little bit while just to turn it on after the segment. You could tell they had to keep cutting back inside the ring, but he was struggling a little bit to turn it on. And also just him walking in the ring. He's older now, right? You know what? He's closer to 60 now. You know, so. That's understandable, but for so long we've been so used to this Undertaker just being who he is. Yes, but now you can see his age is starting to show a little bit. You know, and he sitting there with the bandana and the backwards hat because, you know, he's trying to hide that forehead. You know, I shouldn't be talking. I have a big forehead myself, you know, but still.
Whose game it is and you're confused, just listen because you're here. Everybody. Taker, if anybody ever asks you whose game it is and you're confused, just listen because you're here. Everybody saying L.A. Knight. Yeah.
Yeah. I love this guy, man. Such a good catchphrase. Oh, please push him this year, man. LA Knight is a star. You want to talk about Austin Theory? I know LA Knight, he's like late 30s. Theory's very, very young, and Theory's gonna be a star for, you know, at least maybe a decade plus if used correctly. But still, man, push LA Knight. This guy's gonna make you money. The guy has everything, man. The charisma, the appearance, man. Like, I love him. So he does his catchphrase, but then Bray Wyatt comes out. And, you know, he comes out with his lantern and he's forced to, you know, enter into the ring where Taker is. Taker sets him up for a choke slam, but he doesn't actually do it. I don't know if Taker would have been able to get him up all the way, right? I don't know if Undertaker's still lifting weights at his age, right? Of course, when you get older, your muscles, you know, you lose strength a little bit. But Taker, he looked like he was going to do the chokeslam, but instead he sends LA Knight right into a Sister Abigail by Bray Wyatt, and that was that. Sister Abigail! And then Taker's leaving the ring, and he tells something to Bray Wyatt. And you could tell it was something. It was something very important because Bray Wyatt was emotionally, you know, he was like, you could tell it had an emotional impact. Then Taker left the ring, right? And then he went to the top of the ramp, did his signature fist, or, you know, fist in the air. I'm just laughing at Taker struggling to open up and turn on his motorcycle. That was hilarious. But still, this was a really good segment, man. And remember, Bray Wyatt and Undertaker do have, a lot of history. They do have a lot of history. They faced off at WrestleMania in 2015. That was the year after, WrestleMania 31, I believe. That was the year after Taker lost his undefeated streak. Right? Remember, we didn't know if Taker was ever going to return to the ring. And then they also had the match a couple years later at Survivor Series to celebrate Undertaker's 25th anniversary. Right? I think it was Taker and Kane versus the Wyatt family, if I'm correct. So they do have a good amount of history between them. And Undertaker tweeted out on Twitter, this was definitely a big moment. I don't know if that was for him or it was for Bray Wyatt. Definitely for Bray Wyatt, that had to be a huge moment for him. And you got to remember, there's the stories out there. Remember, after Taker and Bray Wyatt faced off in Mania back in 2015, Taker told Vince McMahon, take care of him. He didn't. Right? Yes, Bray Wyatt would go on to win the WWE Championship, but we all know that didn't even last a month. And we all know Bray Wyatt was later released, and just all of the creative mishaps that Vince did dirty to Bray. Let's just be frank, right? And if it wasn't for Triple H coming back and taking over, Bray Wyatt may never come back to WWE. He might be in AEW, might be somewhere else. But it's really good that Bray Wyatt is back in WWE, and I'm happy for Bray. And I know that had to be good for him. And we might never know what Taker said to Bray, but definitely the emotional impact. Hopefully that means really good things for Bray going forward. And I'm happy that he got that moment tonight. Very good segment, right? I wish the Undertaker came out with his other theme, but still, it was just great to see him tonight. He is older now, but still, I love the Undertaker. And all in all, that was a really, really cool moment. So going from that, we enter into the second hour, which we were supposed to get the Bayley versus Becky Lynch steel cage match, but we didn't. So, and the thing is, they teased this match because they lowered down the cage. Bayley came out and they went to picture in picture, which WWE doesn't do as often, right? AEW, they do that almost all the time. WWE, they don't do that as often as, AEW does. But they went to picture in picture. Bayley had a 4-minute entrance because she came out to the ring, right? She left Damage Control. She told Damage Control, I got this, head to the back. So it looked like we were going to get, Bayley versus Becky, nobody coming out, just one-on-one. And then they go to commercial, and Bayley's, they're doing picture in picture, and Bayley's doing her entrance for 3 minutes. She's going to, east side of the cage, talking to the fans and whatever. I'm like, okay, they're building this up. So we come back from commercial. Becky comes out. And so, Becky's attire still. She's still wearing that long sleeve. I still don't understand that attire, but whatever. But still, she comes out, and before she can get into the cage, she gets attacked by Dakota Kai and Io Sky, right? So they're attacking her on the outside, and then Becky kind of fights out a little bit, but then Bayley does a drop kick, and the steel cage door hits Becky. And I thought, all right, this is Damage Control that's trying to get advantage. This is good heel shit, right? The heel is trying to get advantage on Becky, but instead they locked themselves inside the cage with Becky, to the point where Adam Pearce had to come out and get bolt cutters. And then, the match just never happens. They do a couple finishers. Becky's laid out, and they don't do the match. You just see that Damage Control. They climb to the top of the cage, and that was it. The match didn't happen, and that was it. This was disappointing. Like I said earlier, this was disappointing because this was a match that was marketed, right? They did a whole promo segment last week to set up this match. They advertised the match all week. People were very excited, of course, this being Becky and Bayley, 2 of the 4 horsewomen. This was supposed to be the biggest match between these two. And, of course, it's the 30th anniversary of Raw. You're looking for a big, moment between 2 all-time greats in the women's division, and you don't get it. You don't get the match. The crowd was unhappy, and I would I definitely understand why. There was probably, Becky Lynch and Bayley fans that were very, very much looking to watch that match live. They, the tickets for that show was probably, they're pretty expensive. So I can understand that, we can be unhappy, sitting here from at home, but imagine sitting in the arena and being super excited to watch that match live and not getting it. That I think I understand. Yes, there was a lot of stuff, but it's a 3-hour show. You could have gave these two 20 minutes. There's stuff you could have taken out. You did Bianca Belair and Sonya Deville. Why did you think it was necessary to do Bianca Belair and Sonya Deville and not do this match? Maybe we'll hear, reports throughout the week that maybe they couldn't creatively agree to a finish or, something like that. But still, the fans wanted to see that match. And, it's a little disappointing. Yeah, but like I said, it's a little it's a little disappointing, really, and yeah. So like clearly, of course, this is going to continue, right? We're gonna have the Royal Rumble, and of course, I can see Becky being in the Rumble and wanting to take out all of Damage Control, right? Becky and Bayley both, are going to be, I'm not going to say they're going to be favorites. Becky might be a favorite, right? I don't know if Becky's the favorite. I would definitely say that should go probably to somebody like Rhea Ripley or even Liv Morgan. But, definitely I can see the story continuing there. And then probably after the Rumble, right? At some point they'll do the rematch, but still, tonight would have been perfect time to do the match. It's 30th anniversary of Raw, and it was a hype match. Right now, what do you do now? Honestly, clearly the steel cage. The whole point of the steel cage was to keep Damage Control out, but Damage Control didn't even let Becky get into the cage. So, what do you do now? Right? I don't know. I don't think you do Hell in a Cell. I don't know. I think it'll be very, very interesting. Very interesting where they go, but like I said, we'll just have to be patient and see where the story goes from there. But definitely, I think this was a little bit of a negative for me. It didn't kill the show for me, but definitely I could see why. Definitely, especially if you were in that arena tonight, I can see why people were very disappointed not getting that match. Very hyped match between those two women. Definitely, yeah, I can see why people were unhappy with that. But moving on. We'll see what happens, but let's move on. Next, we had a big segment here. So DX comes out, right? This was a good way kind of to lighten the show, or lighten the mood. DX comes out full force. Of course, Billy Gunn's not there because he's in AEW with the tag champs. The Acclaim. I don't know why I'm forgetting names tonight. Maybe because it's just like I want to go to bed. But DX came out and they also had Kurt Angle. That was the surprising thing. DX comes out and you just see Kurt Angle following them. We're like what the hell? Like, why is Kurt Angle out there? But Kurt Angle comes out and he does the full DX chop. And it was hilarious. During the entrance, right, when they do like the chops with the pyro in the ring, Kurt Angle was like, he wasn't in sync. He's not used to doing the chops. So he was like trying to time it and getting the timing all wrong. It was freaking hilarious. But it's crazy how fast time goes. Like, Attitude Era was 25 years ago. 25 years ago was the Attitude Era. And you can see these guys are aging. Kurt Angle is old. Shawn Michaels wasn't even wearing DX gear. He was just wearing a suit. He was wearing a cowboy suit. Road Dogg is old, right? And of course, Triple H looks the best out of all of them, right? But the thing is, Triple H is always wearing that leather jacket. Every single time we see Triple H, that's the thing, the leather jacket, man. If he's not in the suit, he's in the leather jacket and jeans. But this was on. Let me see if I can find the clip for this, because this was actually pretty funny. Let me refresh, see if it's on WWE's YouTube page. I hope so, because they got the match on here, but they don't have the Let me refresh the page real quick. Ah, man, it's not here. All right, so they don't have it yet on. They don't have it yet on WWE's YouTube page, which is disappointing. Yeah, that's disappointing. But still, I'll recap I'll recap it for you. So basically, they do their whole stick, right? The "Are you ready?" But it starts off. Road Dogg does like the New Age Outlaw theme, even so, of course, Billy Gunn's not there. You know, he's like boys and girls, children of all ages, tonight D-Generation X proudly present to you its sixth time or whatever tag team champions of the world, the Road Dogg, Jesse James, and of course Billy Gunn not there, but he turns like he is, and all you see is he says Kurt, and like that was hilarious. People were dying on Twitter at that moment. They're like, Kurt, what the hell are you doing out here? And Kurt's like, I always wanted to join DX, right? So he takes off his Kurt Angle shirt and he's wearing a DX shirt, right? And Triple H is like, are you ready? Right? And they're about to do the whole thing, but then Imperium comes out, right? And we know how much Triple H loves Imperium. He loves Walter. That's one of his NXT alums. So Imperium comes out and basically Imperium says, we're trying to bring, taste and flavor and glory and honor back to wrestling, something that you old guys never did. You guys just treat it like it's a joke, even though you're in there with Kurt Angle and Shawn Michaels, arguably the two greatest wrestlers of all time. And you can go into this debate. If Moose was here, me and Moose always had debates about Shawn Michaels and Kurt Angle. Who was the greater wrestler? Both were great, right? But let me know. For those watching in the stream, who do you guys pick? Kurt Angle or Shawn Michaels, right? Damn, I wish AJ Styles was on the show. I know AJ Styles, he got injured at a live show a couple weeks back, so he's like he's injured. Hopefully we'll see Styles in the Rumble. But man, I miss Styles. But we have the segment, and basically Imperium's like saying get out of the ring, but basically DX is holding their ground. But then each member of DX, they go down the line and they go like, oh, we're not fighting them. Like Triple H acts like Triple H steps up to Walter and then he's like, actually, no, I'm retired. Triple H can't wrestle anymore because of the heart thing in his chest. Shawn says, I'm way too old. Same thing with Road Dogg and X-Pac, right? And, they then DX huddles up and then they look at Kurt and Kurt's like, nope, no, absolutely not. Not going to be me, right? But they don't want to leave the ring, but they're not going to fight Imperium, so they're in a predicament. So instead, Seth Rollins then comes out, and then the Street Profits come out, and basically they DX has fun with this, basically like, if only there was two other guys that could face you, and that's when the Street Profits came out after Seth, and then they're like, if only there was somebody that could come out and make this an official match, and everyone's looking at Triple H because Triple H is that guy, and Triple H is like, look, it's not that easy booking matches and all that, and basically because then for a moment there, everyone was like got scared because you thought Vince was gonna come out. Thank God he didn't. Thank you that he didn't. Oh my gosh, that would have been rough if Vince had come out. So then, instead, Teddy Long comes out, and what was Teddy Long's specialty during his many years as a GM on SmackDown? Well, if it wasn't putting somebody in a match with The Undertaker, it was making tag team matches. So Teddy Long comes out, he's rocking a nice little goatee in his older age. How old is Teddy Long? Seriously, man, like that guy does not age. He looks exactly the same way he looked 20 years ago. Exactly the same. There's literally no difference, right? Same glasses. He's 75. I'm looking at Wikipedia. He's 75 years old. He's been married 41 years. Wow, congrats. But damn, he's 75 years old, and he looks good for 75. Really, he does. He looks very, very good for 75 years old. Like, Honestly, I want to see this. Did Teddy Long ever have hair? I want to see. Did Teddy Long ever have hair? Please tell me there's like photos of Teddy Long with hair. Please. Oh, shoot! I found some. Oh, I can see why he cut the hair out. Because of course, he was a referee many years ago. But I can see why. Yeah, he had a receding hairline, and then he was sitting on the top. Didn't get a hair transplant or anything. That is funny. Oh my gosh, I might have to watch some like Teddy Long WCW clips after the stream. That is funny, but still, like I said, Teddy Long he looks very, very good for 75. Very, very good. Still wearing the ridiculous suits, of course, but hey, and then of course he has the nice little goatee, right? And then he makes this, hey. It's going to be Imperium, and he said their name wrong. What did he say? Imperium? I think he said Imperium. He didn't even call them Imperium. But he says there's going to be Imperium versus the Street Profits and Seth Rollins in a tag team match. Classic Teddy Long. Classic Teddy Long. And then Triple H and company are like, okay, it's official. All we need now, is a referee, and they're thinking about it. And Kurt Angle's like, hey, I have an idea. And they're like, what, Kurt? What? And then, Kurt Angle takes off his shirt. He's wearing a second shirt, and it's a Olympian shirt. So there you have it. Kurt Angle is the referee for this match. And this was a banger of a 6-man tag. I love the Street Profits, love Imperium, and of course, it's what's his name? Seth Rollins is Seth Rollins. There was multiple commercial breaks to it, right? They definitely gave them a lot of time, and it's good to see tag team matches get time on the show. But there was, of course, your suicide dives, double team spots, right? But Rollins got the win where they stomped the Vinci, and that was that. Rollins and the Street Profits pick up the win. Right, we'll see if this continues. We'll see if this continues going into the Rumble this Saturday, right? Or if this is that, because you could see Rollins especially when Rollins and Gunther went in the ring, that they have chemistry. Remember, they had a one-on-one match on Raw a couple years ago, back when it was right after Rollins lost the Universal Championship to The Fiend. And I don't think that match ever reached a conclusion. And, this was their second time in the ring, and definitely the fans were, they were hyped about it. And then, so, I don't know, Rollins versus Gunther for an IC Championship feud, sign me up. I don't think they're going to do it, at least not right now, but, I don't know. I know they've been talking about Gunther and Brock Lesnar for Mania, but after tonight, I don't know. Are they going to go Lesnar and Lashley again at Mania, which I don't think anybody's going to complain about? But if you're looking potentially for an opponent for Gunther, hey, Seth Rollins might be the guy. I don't know. There's a lot of things you can do with Seth at Mania. Yeah, I know we've talked about, there's some people that thrown out Seth and Roman at Mania, which nobody would complain about. Seth versus Cody Rhodes, depending on if they split up the WWE and Universal Championships. If they make those titles separate again before then, we'll have to see, especially with the Elimination Chamber coming up after the Rumble. Seth versus Gunther, I think that's an option, but, so we got a long way to go before Mania, but it is something I think we should at least consider a little bit, right? But either way, this was good. Very enjoyable. The DX stuff was hilarious. Yes, of course, a lot of the old stuff, but this was funny. Like the guys acting how old they are, and it's always good to see the legends. It's Raw 30. I know it's the go home show to the Raw, or the go home show to the Royal Rumble, but of course it's the 30th anniversary of Raw. A lot of these guys, especially DX, Kurt Angle, they helped build the show in the Attitude Era. So definitely, this was fun. This was very fun, and definitely a good segment. Definitely very enjoyable. All right, moving on. What was next? What was next? Oh, fuck me. This was bad. So Ric Flair comes out, right? Old ass Ric Flair comes out wearing some ridiculous suit. It looked like something Seth Rollins would wear. He's wearing some ridiculous black and yellow flower suit, and he comes out to introduce Charlotte. And he comes out, at least he kept it nice, short, and sweet. It wasn't like he dragged on forever, but he comes out and he introduces Charlotte basically as the greatest women's champion in WWE history. Look, I'm not going to get into that conversation. You guys know my thoughts on Charlotte. I'm not going to sit here ranting about it, right? It's whatever. I just cringe at the fact that as Charlotte's coming out to the ring, Corey Graves is sitting there like, 30 world championships between Ric Flair and Charlotte. Shut the fuck up. Honestly, what are we doing here? Like, seriously, there it is again, right? They're playing up how Charlotte has 14 world championships. It's only a matter of time. Charlotte's going to break that record before she retires. She's going to be the one to break the record that Cena never did, right? Cena shares that record with Rick on the men's side. Charlotte's going to break it for the women's side. She's going to do it. As bad and as overrated as she is, she's going to do it. But people want to tell me Charlotte being champion, Charlotte being Ronda Rousey was necessary. Please, spare me a break. Spare me a break. It was cringe. So Charlotte comes out, and I've already said this. I say this every single time. Charlotte as a babyface is nauseating. She's nauseating. She's at least decent as a heel. As a babyface, she's I can't listen to her. I can't listen to her. And I'm only gonna play a little bit of this clip. The clip just got uploaded. I'm gonna play a little bit of it. I'm not playing the whole thing. But Can I skip this ad, please? I don't know. I think it's time that I need to get a new laptop, man. Like, the performance on this thing. I've had this thing for, 3-4 years now, but it's so slow.
It is right here on Raw where we began to revolutionize women's wrestling. It is where I evolved from a diva into the 14-time women's champion.
Oh, shut up. Overrated piece of trash. How many of those reigns are memorable? I ask this every single week. Out of all of Charlotte's 14 women's championship reigns, which one is most memorable? I don't know which. I literally don't know which. Literally. One of these days, we're going to go through all of those disgusting reigns, and maybe we'll rank them. It'll be hard to, because most of them are really short and not memorable. But 14 women's champions reign, and none of them are memorable. They all suck. Got me ranting. Like me.
Facing names like...
This is the people that people miss. This is the Fitz that people miss. I know I've been, more calm, cool, and collected, right? Because Triple H is in charge. The shows are better. They're more enjoyable. But stuff like this is nauseating.
Like Ronda Rousey.
Oh, yeah, this was bad. Oh.
Facing names like Ronda Rousey, Nikki and Brie Bella, Asuka, and Rhea Ripley. No, it's really because of them I am able to call myself the most decorated athlete of all time.
Oh, shut up. And here's the thing. Those are the names you mentioned? Okay, I can understand Asuka. I can understand Rhea Ripley, right? But Ronda Rousey, please, overrated trash. And I used to love Ronda Rousey, but no, I've seen the light. She truly is just overrated, really. Asuka, yes, I understand. The freaking Bella Twins? What? Seriously, I understand, yes, you won your first Divas Championship against, what was it? I think it was Nikki, right? But still, seriously? You didn't even mention any of the 4 horsewomen. No, mind you, she didn't mention Sasha Banks, right? The greatest women's wrestler of all time. I know she's not in WWE anymore. She probably will be back sometime in the next couple years, right? She's just gonna go kill it in Japan, conquer the rest of the world, and then come back, and maybe WWE will give her the respect that she deserved the last decade. But yeah, I understand, so you're like, let's not mention Sasha Banks, right? Let's not mention Sasha and the rivalry you had with her. Remember, it was at the 25th anniversary of Raw. The 25th anniversary where they had a shirt. They had a shirt that had the top 10 matches in the history of Raw. They talked about this. The top 10 matches in the history of Raw. Sasha Banks versus Charlotte was on there. Their Falls Count Anywhere match, right? Which I believe was in North Carolina or wherever. Right? So don't mention one of the greatest women's rivalry, the greatest women's rivalry in the history of Monday Night Raw. Don't mention Sasha Banks and the matches you guys had in 2016. That's when those matches defined the women's revolution, right? The Hell in a Cell match, the Falls Count Anywhere match, the match at SummerSlam, right? The two matches where Sasha beat Charlotte for the... There was 3 matches, sorry. The 3 matches where Sasha beat Charlotte for the Raw Women's Championship. All of those are bangers. Right? I understand, yes, if Sasha's not there, you don't want to mention her, but still, let's not try to ignore history. You want to mention those names. You want to mention the fucking Bella Twins, right? But you don't want to talk about, Sasha Banks. You don't want to talk about Bayley. You don't want to talk about Becky Lynch. You don't mention anybody else from the, freaking 4 Horsewomen. Like, what the frick are we doing here? What are we doing here? And now my camera wants to freeze again. Maybe I'll give me a break. Friggin'. I don't know why my camera keeps going. Wants to keep acting up today. But jeez. What are we doing here? You don't want to mention the 4 Horsewomen, but still, I will call out that bullcrap every single time I see it. The most decorated athlete of all time, yeah. Because for the last, since 2015 to now, you had freaking Vince McMahon kissing your ass. If Triple H was in charge, you wouldn't be no 14-time women's champion. Oh my gosh, the nauseating bullcrap I have to hear. It's the same thing all the time with Charlotte. I don't understand how people can be fans of Charlotte. She's a robot on the microphone. Says the same thing all the time. What a waste. What a waste here, man. What a waste. Freaking hell. Hey, what are we honestly doing here?
Women's athlete of all time.
You know what, Charlotte?
So then Bianca Belair comes out, right? And of course it makes sense, right? You have the SmackDown Women's Champion here, but of course bring out the Raw Women's Champion. And I said this earlier, and this is not me trying to hate on Bianca. I like Bianca. You guys know this. I love Bianca. I just feel like her reign has just not been that good. Especially in the last 4 or 5 months. She's had good matches, right? She's had some great matches with Bayley and, with Asuka and Becky. But of course, it's easy to have great matches with those women. Those are some of the best female wrestlers in the world. After Sasha Banks, of course, right? But in recent months, ever since the Damage Control feud, I just feel like Bianca has not done much. I don't know. I just feel like the booking of Bianca Belair, I feel like there's some people, they're just a little bit, have fatigue of her. Really. It's kind of crazy to think about. Bianca's been champion for almost a year. She won that title at WrestleMania in April. We're about to be in February here in a couple days. It's almost been a year since Bianca's been champion. And I just feel like it's been a little underwhelming. I'm not trying to hate on Bianca, but I'm a little over it a little bit. Just a little bit. I was the one that said she should have lost that title to Bayley. And then, give her a little bit of a break. But hey, I don't know. Maybe I'm in the minority there. Plus, I don't really have much of a care for this feud with Alexa Bliss. Like, I don't hate Alexa like some people do. You know, I'm not an Alexa Bliss fan or anything, but I don't hate her. But I'm not interested in this feud with Alexa. I expect Bianca to win. I would be very, very surprised if Alexa ended up winning at the Rumble. Could it happen? Maybe, but I don't expect it to happen. You know, I think the person that's most likely dethrone Bianca is either Liv Morgan or Rhea Ripley, whoever wins the Women's Royal Rumble. And I think it should be one of those two. But hey, outside that, I don't know. Like, if it's not Rhea Ripley versus Bianca, if that's not where we're going for Mania, who is gonna beat Bianca at Mania? Or who does, like, do you do Becky again? I'm not really interested in that. You've done that match enough times. You've done that match at multiple SummerSlams. You've done that match at Mania. Let's do something else. Let's get somebody else a Mania moment here. You know, we don't need Bianca versus Becky. Do you do Bayley? I don't know. I don't think so. Right? It's clear that you're not going to have Bayley be the one to defeat Bianca. So if you're not going to have Bayley beat Bianca, why would you do that match? It's a waste of time. What, could you do like maybe a triple threat or a fatal 4-way, right? Where maybe like it ends up being Rhea, Bianca, Becky, and Bayley. I don't know, but I think Rhea Ripley should be the one built up to beat Bianca, unless you're gonna do Rhea versus Charlotte at Mania. But you've kind of already done that match on Raw, so I don't know. I think it should probably be Rhea Ripley, but I don't know. We'll see. But I just kind of had to do a little bit of a rant there.
Everything that you've done for this business
Of all time.
You know what, Charlotte? I respect everything that you've done for this business. I mean, nobody wears a crown like you. Yes, queen.
Oh, Naomi. Good point, Chris. But Naomi hasn't come back yet.
Just not here.
I do expect Naomi to. My prediction is I do think Naomi will be in the Rumble, right? And if it is Naomi, turn Naomi heel, have her join the Bloodline, and have Naomi be the one to beat Charlotte at Mania. Do that, please.
Because I go here now. I mean, this is just not here. Because I go here now. I mean, this is my show. This is my home. And you best believe that I do everything that I can to make sure that Raw is the greatest show on television.
Shut up.
I am so sorry to break up this little powwow, but ladies, do you realize what a historic night in Raw history tonight is? And the two of you are just standing out here talking about yourselves. Charlotte, let's start with you. Was it really necessary to fly Daddy all the way out here just to give you a big grand introduction?
And I agree with Sonya there.
For a show you're not
I
even
agree with
wanted
Sonya there.
on? And Bianca, you don't really still think people tune into Monday Night Raw just to watch you, do you? I mean, no, that's a little delusional. What about people who work so hard to make this show special that don't get the spotlight every week? People like me.
I owe Sonya for the cheap shot last Friday. So, you know what? You've been killing it. This is your show. How about you handle this? Yep, champ?
You know what? My pleasure, champ.
Oh, you want to face the champ?
Well, I mean, Sonya, you said you wanted the spotlight, so how about you come get in the ring and then you can be the center of my attention? I mean, that's if you're ready to go one-on-one with the ESC of WWE.
Whatever.
Come on.
I'm done. I'm done listening to this. You know, it's whatever. Here's the thing. I like Bianca. I like Sonya Deville. It's just, I'm over it. How many times, and look, we've already kind of talking about, you chose not to do Becky and Bayley inside the steel cage for whatever reason, right? And hopefully we'll get reports on that like tomorrow or something. But you chose not to do that match. You chose to give us this instead as the main women's match of the night. Because if they had not done any women's match, it would have been a bad look. But at least they did this match. But the thing about it is, how many times in the last year have we seen Bianca versus Sonya Deville? Remember, they had a short feud over the Raw Women's Championship. I remember now. Sonya was one of the first people to face Bianca for that title back last summer. It was early June, July. She went up against Sonya. They had 2 or 3 matches. They may have even had a pay-per-view match, if I'm right. They may have had a pay-per-view match over the Raw Women's Championship. Bianca beat Sonya every single time. I like Sonya Deville. I've said for multiple years now on this podcast that I would love to see Sonya Deville get pushed for a potential women's championship reign. It's never going to happen at this point. Sonya's been in that company, 6-7 years now on the main roster? She's been there for actually a while. She's been there, 2016, 2017? She's been there for a grip. She's had multiple shots at women's titles. They're clearly, yes, they think she's talented because she's on the show. She's had multiple mini title feuds with both Charlotte and Bianca. But clearly she's lost every single time. She's a loser. She's a jobber that you can call on every single time in their eyes. And I hate that. I like Sonya Deville. But clearly they're telling you that they don't view her as a women's champion, or they would have made her one by now, with how long she's been in that company, right? And how many times have we seen Bianca versus Sonya? I just said that. We like there was no interest here. You knew that Bianca was gonna win. You knew that Bianca was gonna win from the jump, right? This was just a match to fill in time to get us closer to the main event. So I'm sorry. I'm sorry if I don't care. I was not paying attention during this match. Bianca hit Sonya with a KOD, and that was that. After the match, Bianca cut a quick promo on Alexa Bliss saying that, I haven't forgot about you, Alexa Bliss, and, I don't care if you're Uncle Howdy. I don't care if you have Bray Wyatt. I don't care, what happens. You're not taking this Raw Women's title from me at the Rumble. Then Alexa Bliss appeared on the screen. She was talking, in front of a mirror, right? And she said that, nothing's going to stop me from tearing you apart at the Royal Rumble, but I'll make sure to leave your eyeballs intact so you can watch me walk out with the Raw Women's Championship. So they're trying to make you believe that Alexa's going to beat Bianca, right? But no, we know that she's not going to beat Bianca. That's not going to happen. Could be a good match. Alexa doesn't suck in the ring, right? And Bianca's great herself, but I expect Bianca to win. And then maybe some supernatural stuff happened, and maybe who knows? Maybe Alexa appears in the Pitch Black match with Bray Wyatt and LA Knight. We have zero clue what to expect from that match, but still, it'll be interesting. It'll be very interesting to see how that goes, but I expect Bianca to win. Could I see Alexa winning? Maybe, but I think it's way more likely that Bianca is the safe bet to win that match. But yeah, that's that. But I'm more interested to see who's gonna win the Women's Royal Rumble. To be honest with you guys, way more interested in that than anything. I think it's gonna be Rhea Ripley or Liv Morgan, like I said. I cannot wait to end the stream. Not because I want to end the stream, it's because I need to fix my freaking camera. Gotta switch out the HDMI cord for. But anyway, yeah. I don't know, and I'm probably not gonna. There's a chance maybe later in the week I'll do a Royal Rumble prediction show, but I don't know. I don't know if I need to. The Royal Rumble is pretty easy, kind of easy to do. Let's talk about the Rumble matches, right? Who might return, and it's a short card. Excuse me. I think what are the matches? Reigns versus KO, LA Knight versus Bray Wyatt, Bianca versus Alexa Bliss, right? You got the women's Royal Rumble match, the men's Royal Rumble match, and I think that's it. I can't think of any other match because almost all the other champions are going to be in the Rumble matches. So Yeah, I don't know if doing a Royal Rumble preview prediction show is necessary. Chris says they're teasing Charlotte versus Bianca at WrestleMania 39. They could do that, of course. You know, Bianca, she did say she wants to beat all 4 of the 4 horsewomen, and she's done that. She's beat Bayley, she beat Sasha, she beat Becky. Charlotte's the only one left on the list. But they're not merging the titles, so one of them would have to lose their title probably to do that match. It would be stupid to do champion versus champion. I don't think they're going to do that. So I think that's a match that may happen more closer to SummerSlam, right? I could see that happening at SummerSlam this year. I don't know what WWE's plans for like a draft are or anything like that, but it seems like kind of the brand split's kind of over. You see superstars on both shows, which I don't have a problem with. I think the way they've been doing it, letting superstars be on both shows, I think that's fine. I like that. But I don't know. I just don't see how you could do Bianca versus Charlotte without having one of those two lose their belt before. And clearly, especially SmackDown's women's division is not strong right now, so you really don't have a choice but to keep that title on Charlotte for now. I don't see them taking, unless you give the title to Alexa, which I just think is unlikely. I just don't see a way you do Bianca versus Charlotte at Mania this year. One of them would have to lose their belt, and I don't see that happening. And then, last but not least, moving into the main event. Well, before that, we had a very, very quick but very cool segment between The Miz and KO. So The Miz came out and he was very angry that he was not featured on the show. There was no Miz TV segment. There was no video package highlighting the Miz's moments throughout 30 years of Raw. And the crowd was on his side, and I respect the Miz. I'm not the biggest Miz guy, but I do respect him. He will be in the WWE Hall of Fame, when he retires, and he's done a lot. He's had some pretty memorable moments on Raw. Of course, I remember when he cashed in the Money in the Bank briefcase, not the one on Bobby Lashley, which was 2 years ago. I'm talking about the one where he cashed it in back when he was really young on Randy Orton for the WWE Championship. That's a memorable moment. He's had some memorable IC title victories and US title victories on the show. He's done a lot. He spent the majority of his career on Raw. Yes, he's been on SmackDown as well, but a lot of his career he's just been on Monday Night Raw. So definitely, I kind of agree with the Miz, a little bit there, but still, Miz was angry here, and the crowd was with him. He was telling the crowd to stand up and get applaud, but of course Kevin Owens came and gave him a stunner, right, which was really cool. And then KO cut a quick promo talking about what he was gonna do to Roman this Saturday. He said that he gave his word that either he was gonna beat Roman or that he was going to die trying. And KO, I love KO, man. Always serious, always business. KO was like, I'm gonna become a champion that everyone can be proud of, because you've held that title hostage for the last 2 years. I don't think KO will. I don't think KO will win this Saturday. I think the bigger story is, of course, what's going on with him, Sami, and the Bloodline. But still, I expect it to be a banger of a match this Saturday at the Royal Rumble. Definitely. Remember, there's no stipulation on this match. You would expect KO and Sami or KO and Roman with their history that there would be some kind of stipulation. There is no stipulation. It's a normal match. So the Bloodline's going to get involved at some point. Like, the referee's going to get knocked down or knocked out. That's going to allow, Sami or other members of the Bloodline to come in and interfere. And that's what's going to happen, and we'll just have to, take it from there. But still, I'm surprised there's no stipulation in this match. It's still going to be a banger, but, yeah. There is no stipulation on this match, but still, I love KO, but he ain't gonna win. I do want to see KO get one more world title reign eventually. But at least, but right now that's just not the case. Yeah. Anyway, moving on, we went into the main event, which was Bobby Lashley versus Austin Theory in a no disqualification match for the U.S. Championship. That the no disqualification match, I don't remember when that was announced. I don't know if that was announced during the week or that was announced earlier in the day, but this was for a no disqualification match. Before the match, MVP came out to Bobby Lashley, right? I was telling Lashley, like, hey, after you win tonight, come to the MVP lounge. We'll have some girls, have some drinks, have some celebration, right? And all the reports that Triple H does have plans to bring back the Hurt Business, which would be great. I thought tonight would be the night that they brought the Hurt Business back. Lashley told MVP that he didn't need his MVP's or Almas's help to become number one contender, and he didn't need their help tonight. So to stay out of stay out of his business. They came out, like I said, Austin Theory. He has really, really, really improved in recent months, man. Like, he's definitely much more respected now than what he used to be. And this was a physical match. These two went at it. Theory pushed Lashley pushed Theory to the corner, started dominating him. But then Theory was able to eventually turn things around. He used the fire extinguishers to spray Lashley in the face, right? Then we getting closer. Lashley put Theory through a table, and it looked like Lashley was, just about ready to regain his title. But Brock Lesnar came out. So instead of the Hurt Business coming out like I thought they would, Lesnar came out. Lesnar wasn't even advertised for the show, but Lesnar came out, which, how many crazy returns has Lesnar had? You can make a playlist, really, of this, and it would probably be like this 30 different clips of all the times that Lesnar has fucking come back over the last, let's say, 12 years. Since 2011, which is crazy how fast time goes by, but over the last 12 years, all of Lesnar's returns in pay-per-view matches or on Monday Night Raw or SmackDowns, like he comes back so many times. But he comes out, he still has the ponytail, still rocking the ponytail and the beard. He whipped his jean vest off, and then he F5 Lashley, and then he F5 Theory right onto Lashley, and Theory was able to get the 1-2-3 and win. So Lesnar once again costs Lashley the U.S. Championship, which is definitely going to have big ramifications. Like I said, we know that Lashley's in the Royal Rumble, and he's going to be angry. So that's going to be bad news for everybody else in the Rumble. But the question is, will Lesnar be in the Rumble? I definitely think that's something to watch out for. I can definitely see Lesnar being in the Rumble. I don't think Lesnar's going to win it, but I definitely think Lesnar will be in the Rumble, and that is something to watch out for. We'll see where this goes. At first we thought it was going to be Gunther and Lesnar at Mania, but we don't know. Maybe they're going to drag this Lashley Lesnar thing all the way to Mania. But we'll just have to wait and see. But all in all, this was good. This was good. It was shock. It was rushed because literally Lesnar came out, F5'd both men, and they had to get to that show they do in the Bella Twins, that game show that the Bella Twins host right after. Literally, the show ended like 5 seconds after the match ended. They did not give you any time to react and breathe and catch your breath. They just ended the show, and that was that. It was rushed a little bit, so the timing could have been a lot better, but like I said, still, the point is Lesnar costs his last the U.S. title. Theory retains, and we'll just have to go from there. We'll just have to go from there and see what happens. But other than that, that's about all I got for you guys today. Let me know what you guys think. Did you guys enjoy the show? What was your thoughts on Raw 30th? But all in all, this was a very, very good show. A great way with all the legends to pay, tribute and celebrate 30 years of Monday Night Raw, but also did a very good job of continuing the major storylines going into the Royal Rumble, right? Like I said, the trial of Sami Zayn was fantastic. How that led into the Raw Tag Team title match. Already, it's gonna be hard for any segment this year to outperform that as the best segment of the year. But that was fantastic. Disappointed that we didn't get the Becky and Bayley match, right? But it didn't hurt the show. Great 6-man tag match with Imperium versus Rollins and the Street Profits. Undertaker and Bray Wyatt, in the LA Knight segment, that was fantastic. Good main event with Lesnar coming back. All in all, it was a pretty good show. And definitely now we turn our focus. We have SmackDown on Friday where we do have KO versus Solo. But still, we turn our heads to that, and of course the Royal Rumble on Saturday, which should be a very, very, very fun night, and I cannot wait for it. So let me know what you guys are most hyped for this weekend at the Rumble. Who do you guys got winning the Rumble? I don't know if I'm going to do a Royal Rumble preview and prediction show. I might. We'll see. I don't know if I'm going to do a SmackDown review this week. I might. But I will be doing a Royal Rumble review Saturday night. Saturday night, we will be doing a Royal Rumble review. If not, in the worst case that I don't do one, then it will just get pushed to Sunday morning, right before championship weekend with the AFC and the NFC title games. But either way, let me know what you guys enjoyed on tonight's show. What are you guys hyped about going into the Royal Rumble? Outside of that, thank you guys for joining me here on the Legit Shoot podcast. It feels good to be back. Feels good to get back in the swing of things, man. But I hope you guys enjoyed. I got to fix this fucking camera on the HDMI cord so it's not lagging out. I think it lagged like 4 or 5 times during the stream, so I apologize for that. But it feels good to be back. If you guys enjoyed the stream, leave a like on the video. Subscribe if you guys are new to this channel by hitting the bell next to my name, FitzTV, so you guys are notified every time I post a new video. I will see you guys later. Follow me down on social media. Links in the description down below. Have a good night, guys. Peace.